What's up, Bass Resource? We got John Crews here, and we're talking about chatterbaits, one of my favorite baits to fish all year. The chatterbait, one of my favorites all year long. We're gonna talk about chatterbaits in the winter time. Most people are not thinking about chatterbaits in the wintertime. There's a couple applications you may be missing, and then obviously in the wintertime, sometimes you're gonna catch that pre-spawn, that time period right before as the fish are starting to move up. Really a key time for chatterbaits. So first of all, you've got colors, you've got sizes, you've got all these different applications, all these different things that when you're talking about chatterbaits, you've got these mini chatterbaits, you got the bigger chatterbaits, you got the regular chatterbaits. The regular chatterbait in the wintertime is where I'm gonna go first. And when we're talking about the true wintertime, white, like a brighter white, like we've got right here. This is the Z-Man Jackhammer, and the brighter white is really what I'm gonna be focusing on. Probably starting with a 1/2 ounce, because in the wintertime, the fish are not gonna be in that really shallow water usually. So I'm gonna go with a 1/2 ounce to start with. And with that 1/2 ounce, I'm also gonna bounce up to a 3/4. That 3/4 ounce is really underutilized by a lot of anglers with chatterbaits. That 3/4 ounce can be fished effectively 6, 8, and 10 feet deep. You can throw that bait out there, let it sink down to the bottom, and then you can have a slow, steady retrieve and keep that chatterbait down. Those fish are not seeing chatterbaits. And the reason that we're going with white is because white is probably the best wintertime color for any kind of a moving bait. That bright white, for some reason, I put a Fishalicious Shockwave on the back of there. The wintertime is when I'm gonna go upsizing with my trailers. About the only time that I'm gonna do that. 5.5 inch spunk shad, probably my #1 choice in the frosted purple, probably #1 color choice. But that's not the only time. That's really when you're gonna be early winter time. You need bait fish present. You wanna be able to see bait fish. You may or may not be around the grass, but in that true winter time, we're talking about water temperatures that are colder. The fish are not anywhere close to spawning when it's like that early winter, true winter time. As we get a little closer to spring, we're talking, in a lot of areas, it could be even late January and into February, there's like a magical conversion to where all the anglers start throwing reds and oranges. And I think that there's a time period where they'll still bite the white one, and then sometimes they just want that orange one. And there's something about that color, that red-orange color. This is the 4.5 inch spunk shad in the lava crawl on the back. That there's something about this combination right there in that color that just triggers big bass in that late winter time, like early pre-spring time period. And it really good around grass, but also I've caught them really good on this color right here in that little more stained water, but even around rocky banks, even around bait fish. When you think white might be the deal, for some reason, something about that orange and red combination. And there's multiple different versions and variations. You've got the black and red color variation with a little shockwave on the back, and then when this is the one I just have, and then you have the more subtle green pumpkin and red. If the water's a little clearer around grass, this one is really good. I've caught a lot of fish on that particular color. When maybe this is too bright, that you might want to go to a little more subtle with that red in there. So just kind of let the watercolor dictate what that is. But don't be afraid to throw that bright red, even in water that's, you almost might think it's too clear. Don't be afraid to throw that bright. There is something about that late winter time when that thing actually crushes them. It just triggers something in those fish. But the setup that I like to throw a bait caster almost exclusively for the chatterbait. I'm going to be having, the line I usually use is Sunline Shooter 18 pound. You can use 16 if you want to keep that bait down a little bit more. You can use 20 if you want to keep it up a little bit higher. 18 is just a good combination for me, that it's strong enough that I don't have to worry about banging the bait off of the bottom and rocks and stuff like that, and still hooking 5-pounders and swinging them in the boat. 18 pound is plenty for that. And then the rod, I think, is key. You want to have a rod that's not too stiff. If you fish any kind of a fast action rod that's got a lot of backbone to it, it might have a soft tip, but a lot of backbone to it, that's not enough give for the bait. You will lose a lot of fish on that chatterbait. You can see this rod right here has a lot of bend to it, throughout the rod. That's called a moderate action right there. This is the Cashin Chattergrass rod. It is just a great action for a chatterbait. Caught a ton of fish on it. That's what you want. And then I like a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. This is the Daiwa Zillion SVTW. You want to have a quality reel that you can make really, really long casts, cover a lot of water when you're fishing that chatterbait, no matter what the season it is. So that's kind of my and then as far as for working that chatterbait, you want to be able to throw the bait out there in the wintertime. Let the bait sink to the bottom, and don't be afraid to give it some rips as you're reeling it, and then maybe let it sink down to the bottom, rip it a little bit more, and then reel it. Just think in the wintertime, you got a lot of shad that are kind of dying off, and so that's what you're trying to emulate, especially with the white colors, but you're just trying to get that erratic trigger strike, especially in the wintertime when you're fishing the more bait fish colors. You're going to be reeling it along and then just letting it die and then ripping it up. Not like a full-fledged yo-yo, but you definitely want to rip it more often and then start back with a slow reel. That is the way I fish a chatterbait in the wintertime. I'll catch a lot of fish on that chatterbait in the wintertime. Using those two different color shades, you will catch a lot of big bass in the wintertime if you don't forget to tie on that chatterbait.